Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Anakin Skywalker turns to the dark side in revenge of the Sith when he kills Mace Windu and storms the Jedi Temple, hoping that he will gain the power to save Padme from death. Palpatine meticulously crafted this moment and had Anakin turn evil at the right moment, where there was enough discontent in the galaxy that the Republic would welcome the rise of the Empire. But what if Anakin turned to the dark side earlier in the Clone Wars? Would this disrupt Palpatine's plans? Would he have to resort to a plan B? Let's find out. Today's story starts on Coruscant. Now for Anakin to turn to the dark side, we have to engineer an event that will cause him to topple over in anger. I believe this has to be related to Padme. It's the only thing that Anakin cares about enough to become evil. Even in the Clone Wars, when Anakin thinks Obi-Wan is dead, he gets angry but not nearly angry enough that he'd turn to the dark side. But I think what would really get him heated is if he believes Padme and Obi-Wan are having an affair. I think Palpatine would engineer this somehow, making Anakin think they were spending time together, or maybe Anakin comes home and Obi-Wan is there. I'm not sure, but the bottom line is that Anakin would get this belief and grow enraged. Obi-Wan would stumble on his words and try and tell Anakin that what he thinks is wrong. But Anakin would be blinded by rage and would only see the betrayal by the two closest people in his life. And perhaps now, in the heat of the moment, he ignites his blade on Obi-Wan and force pushes Padme into the wall. This will turn Kenobi's survival instincts on, who doesn't try and tell Anakin that what he thinks is wrong, and instead just tries to protect himself and Padme. Anakin would escape the duel and go straight to Palpatine, who would sense that Anakin was bubbling in pure hatred. The Chancellor would see this as an opportunity that was too good to waste. He had hoped to give Anakin a few more months to cultivate his power, but if he had the chance to make him his apprentice, he would do it. Palpatine tells Anakin that he is a Sith Lord, and together they can achieve peace and get revenge on Kenobi and Padme. Anakin would join Palpatine and turn to the dark side. The fallout would be immediate. Obi-Wan would quickly learn alongside the Council that his former apprentice has joined the Separatists. Betrayed and devastated, he rallies the Jedi Council to respond. The Republic declares Anakin a traitor, but the revelation of his fall fractures the galaxy's trust in the Jedi. At this point in the war, the Republic loved Anakin more than any other Jedi, and they were now to believe that he was evil. Nobody liked it. Whispers of the Jedi's order inability to prevent the corruption of their own chosen one spread like wildfire. Public confidence erodes as rumors swell that the Jedi are as dangerous as the Sith. Palpatine would be smart and uses this distrust to justify expanding his emergency powers even further, framing the Jedi as conspirators responsible for the war's devastation. Meanwhile, Anakin would enter the fray for the Separatists, now secretly dubbed Darth Vader. Skywalker was driven by anger, and his presence on the battlefield would be felt immediately. He felt as though all he had left was Palpatine, and he would do anything the Sith Lord asked of him. He leads his forces and takes over Mon Cala and destroys the Republic forces on Umbara. Sidious and Anakin would begin training together vigorously. Hey guys, make sure to check out our saber shop Fantasy Sabers for the best NeoPixel sabers on the market. We have a bunch of perfect replicas and other insane Padawan sabers for sale. Check them out on our website, first link in the description below, and grab your own one today. The Sith Lord wanted to teach Anakin everything there is about the Force. Unlike his older apprentices like Maul, he would teach Anakin everything. Force Lightning, Force Choke, Force Cloud, every technique that could hone a Sith's power became a weapon in Anakin's arsenal. The goal was for Vader to be his final apprentice. He had the most potential of anyone in history, and Sidious would make sure that Anakin realized his power. Over the course of months, Anakin grew unbelievably strong. The Republic forces that encountered Anakin began losing instantaneously. The ironic fact about the Clone Wars is that Palpatine manipulated the outcome from behind the scenes. He almost controlled who won and didn't win each battle. To an extent at least. But he needed the Separatists to win a lot of battles, so there became this discontent in the Republic for the Jedi and their supposed incompetence. but then he also needed the Republic to win enough battles so that he wasn't blamed as Chancellor. But when Anakin joined the dark side, Palpatine just let him run rampant. He never told him to tame himself or give the Republic a victory, he just fought with pure aggression. From Christophsis to Ryloth, Vader became feared by the very people who helped raise him. As for Dooku, he would also feel the fallout of Anakin turning to the dark side. He had always known the plan was for Anakin to turn and then take over the galaxy together, but now that Anakin has joined him, Sidious pays less attention to him, and he knows that his master feels nothing towards him anymore. In Dooku's mind, if he wants to remain as an apprentice, he has to prove himself to Sidious. He creates a plan to kill Anakin and makes Sidious believe that he is the most powerful apprentice. During the Battle of Felucia, Anakin leads the droids as Dooku prepares to join the battle. Dooku descended onto the battlefield, his mind set on proving his dominance. Locating Skywalker in the midst of the battle, he waited for the right moment when he was surrounded by droids to watch the fight. But the moment his crimson blade clashed with Anakin's, he knew that he had made a mistake. Anakin was faster, too fast. The raw, unchecked power of the dark side surged through him, and his strikes were heavier than Durasteel, his movements relentless. Dooku tried to counter with precise Makashi footwork, but it was useless. Skywalker wasn't the same reckless Jedi that he had toyed with before. He was something else. With the flick of a wrist, Anakin sent a wave of force lightning and crashed it into Dooku's, forcing his knees to the ground, and his muscles spasmed under the assault. Dooku barely had enough time to recover before Anakin was on him again, slamming his blade down with an intensity that rattled his bones. Desperate, the Count reached for the Force, but Anakin's power was suffocating, pressing down on him like a collapsing star. Dooku saw the end before it came. His master had already chosen his replacement. With a final brutal strike, Anakin severed Dooku's head from his shoulders, his body collapsing to the blood-soaked ground. Across the battlefield, droids and clones alike froze, witnessing the fall of the great Sith Lord. When Sidious learned of what had happened, he couldn't hide his satisfaction. His apprentice was blossoming. Anakin had proven himself. Now the war belonged to him. Anakin assumes full control of the Separatist forces and takes over all of Dooku's responsibilities. With Vader as their champion, the droid armies grow deadlier and Republic forces suffer unprecedented losses. Back at the Jedi Temple, the Council grows increasingly worried about Anakin. He has become extremely powerful and is now the leader of the Separatists. Since Anakin joined their cause, the Separatists have become exponentially better and more successful in battle. The Jedi were getting worried, and they knew that something had to be done to tame Anakin before it was too late. After the session, Obi-Wan would go and speak with Padme, who had been distraught ever since Anakin left Coruscant. Kenobi explained that they had to find him and help him. They had to turn him back to the light. Padme of course agreed, and would do anything to bring her husband back. Padme would spend the following weeks following leads and using her influences as a senator to see if they could find where Anakin is. They tried a few different worlds, like Sereno and Maigito, but Anakin wasn't there. But when Padme purchased information from a low-life smuggler on the lower levels of Coruscant, they learned that Anakin had set up his home on Nar Shaddaa. Amidala and Kenobi hit hyperspace immediately. On the crime-ridden moon of Nar Shaddaa, they searched for Anakin, finding him at his private home towering the rest of the filth-covered world. They had come to save him, to bring him back from the darkness, but the moment Anakin laid his eyes on them together, the fury inside of him erupted like a dying star. His mind twisted by rage, he refused to hear Padme's desperate assurances, convinced that his worst fear had come true. Anakin's mind raced. There was still a small part of him that believed she would come back to him, that if he grew powerful enough, perhaps she would see that he has done all of this for her, for their family. But that was the dark side talking. His arrogance had taken over all reason. Anakin tells Obi-Wan that it was foolish to come here. All Obi-Wan wanted was his old friend back, his apprentice. He tries to speak reason to him, to tell him that whatever he thought happened is false and that he has been manipulated. Obi-Wan says they can hide him from the Council and make sure he doesn't go to prison, that it's not too late to do what's right. Anakin scoffed, Kenobi's betrayal burned hotter than Mustafa's fire, and with a snap hiss, Anakin's crimson blade ignited. He didn't want to hear lies anymore. His anger billowed faster than the robes on his back. Obi-Wan barely had enough time to raise his weapon before Anakin struck, his attacks fueled by an unrelenting storm of anger. Their duel was unlike any before. Anakin wasn't holding back. He wasn't the brash but controlled warrior Kenobi had trained. He was a force of destruction, his power overwhelming and strikes brutal. Buildings trembled as their blades clashed, the air thick with the crackle of energy and the hum of death. Padme pleaded for them to stop, but Anakin was lost, driven by blind rage. Obi-Wan fought with everything he had, but Anakin was faster, stronger, and consumed by the dark side in a way that made him unstoppable. With a sudden shift in momentum, Anakin found his opening, driving his saber straight through his former master's chest. Obi-Wan's eyes widened in shock, his body collapsing as life drained from him, his blade extinguishing as it fell from his grasp. Padme let out a strangled cry, her hands covering her mouth as she stared in horror. This wasn't Anakin. This was something else, a monster wearing his face. Anakin turned to her, his breathing heavy and his expression unreadable, but Padme could see it now. This wasn't the man she loved. This was the price of his fall, the weight of his own arrogance and darkness. He truly had become Darth Vader. Following Kenobi's death, Anakin takes Padme back to his home on Nar Shaddaa. He locks her up there like she's in prison, where he begins the process of making her join him, to remember the love that she felt for him. But this wasn't love, it was torture and pain. The war had reached its final stage, and the Republic, exhausted and disillusioned, had lost faith in the Jedi. After years of fighting, the Republic were extremely upset with the Jedi, and Palpatine knew that they would welcome the Empire. It was time for the final stage of his plan. Palpatine had crafted the perfect storm. He didn't need Order 66, but he gave the command anyway, and the galaxy shattered. As Anakin led the Separatist forces out of hyperspace and into Coruscant, the sky was ablaze with fire, the streets choked with smoke, the screams of the dying lost in the thunder of war. Clones and battle droids fought side by side, an alliance forged by the Sith, sweeping through the city and cutting down every Jedi they could find. The temple was under siege. Jedi tried to defend their home, but it was hopeless. The clones knew their tactics, and the droids overwhelmed them with sheer numbers, and Anakin was a force of destruction unlike anything they had ever faced. He moved through the temple like a storm, his crimson blade a blur of death, cutting down Jedi Masters, Knights, and Padawans alike. The younglings begged for mercy, but Anakin had none left to give. His heart was ice. The council chambers became a tomb. The archives set ablaze as ancient knowledge turned to ash. Outside, the city crumbled, explosions rocking the skyline, and entire districts reduced to rumble as separatist warships rained fire from above. The people of Coruscant cheered, not realizing they had traded one master for another, not knowing that their new emperor had orchestrated the entire war. The Jedi, being the last obstacle to Palpatine's rule, were now gone, and the Republic was dead. The Empire had begun. After the clones and droids took control of Coruscant, Palpatine gave the order to the Trade Federation to shut down the droid forces. Speaking in front of the Senate, Anakin and Palpatine present themselves as the saviors who destroyed the Separatists. Anakin said that he was only pretending to work with the Separatists, but secretly, he and Palpatine were working together for months because they had discovered a secret coup by the Jedi to take over the Republic. The Senate would believe them, and they established the Galactic Empire, ensuring the Darksider's dominance forever. Anakin became a monster, a Sith Lord unmatched in power, and a tyrant whose very name sent shivers through the galaxy. Entire worlds bent to his will, their leaders kneeling before him, their armies crumbling under the weight of his darkness. There was no rebellion, no hope, only submission or destruction. The Jedi were long dead and their teachings erased. But even with all of his power, Anakin was never whole. Padme had refused him and rejected the vision that he tried so desperately to make her see, and for that, she was locked away, never again to see the stars and never to feel the warmth of the sun. He had tried for years to bring her to his side, to make her understand, but her defiance only deepened his rage. His anger became a black hole, consuming everything, fueling his power, but also leaving him empty and depressed. The galaxy burned and its people living in fear. The Sith ruled unchallenged, and yet Anakin found no peace. He had everything, but also nothing. The darkness he had embraced had devoured him, left him hollow, trapped in a prison of his own making. The galaxy would never recover, and standing on the throne would be Palpatine. He had won. Thank you all for watching today's video. Please check out our saber shop, Fantasy Sabers, where you can get your very own NeoPixel saber for an affordable price and fulfill your childhood dreams of becoming a Jedi or a Sith. Also check out our membership platform to be able to watch our videos early, and may the Force be with you.